live in the inner city are not doing that work. They're just not doing that work. And they've tried, we've tried, everybody tried. They don't do it. These people do it naturally. I said, what happens if they get it to a farmer the other day? What happens if they get a bad back? He said, they don't get a bad back, sir, because if they get a bad back, they die.
I'm going to break down to you what Donald Trump was saying and what he has been taught and what a lot of white people in this country have been taught. And what Donald Trump has been taught by his father and his father's father goes back to the founding of this country. President Thomas Jefferson. When you hear his name, you hear about two main things. You hear about the Louisiana Purchase and you hear about the Declaration of Independence. And when discussing his private life, you hear about how a 35-year-old Jefferson was sleeping with and had children with a 14-year-old Sally Hemings. But that's another story for another time. Then again, it might not be, because it shows the hypocrisy that this man was plagued with. I think that's why they put his ass on a $2 bill, but whatever. What most people don't hear about when they think about Thomas Jefferson is the only book that he's ever published. And the name of that book is The Notes on the State of Virginia. Now, some people may say that he's a product of his time, but that's bullshit, because while him and other founding fathers had slaves, there were people who were advocates of not having slaves. And in that book, while writing about the state of Virginia, in query 14 and 18, he talked about slavery. In particular, he talked about blacks being slaves. And listen to some of the stereotypical things he had to say about African enslaved persons, justifying why they need to be and they are enslaved. They have less hair on the face and body. They secrete less by the kidneys and more by the glands of the skin, which gives them a very strong and disagreeable odor. This greater degree of transpiration renders them more tolerant of heat and less of cold than the whites. This is what Thomas Jefferson was taught. And also this has been passed down all the way to Trump's generation. And Trump's generation is passing it down to their generations, which is why you have people like the MAGA people. They are saying that because these people have darker skin and less hair on the face and the body, they can withstand the humidity and the heat of the cotton picking South, which is why they need to be enslaved and not people of fairer, less melanated skin. Perhaps, too, a difference of structure in the pulmonary apparatus, which a late ingenious experimentalist has discovered to be the principal regulator of animal heat, may have disabled them from extricating in the act of inspiration so much of that fluid from the outer air, or obliged them in expiration the part with more of it. Simply put, they sweat more, which cools down the body, allowing them to withstand more heat, justifying them staying out in the hot, humid weather. They require less sleep. Everybody needs the same amount of sleep. But when you have whips and guns pointed at you, what are you going to do? A black, after hard labor through the day, may be induced by the slightest amusements to sit up till midnight or later, though knowing he must be out with the first dawn in the morning. Not only does this prove the kin to can't theory, where slaves work from can see to can't see, but it also lets you know that you need some type of release. How many times do you, as a person in 2025, go to work and put in 8, 12, 16 hours and still go home and watch some kind of amusement, or still go to a bar and grab a beer before you go home, or still try to find some kind of release before you go home and go to sleep? But again, this justifies keeping them out in those fields. They can do 12 hours and still go to the club and wake up the next morning and do it all over again. They are at least as brave and more adventuresome. But this may perhaps proceed from a want of forethought, which prevent them from seeing a danger till it be present. When present, they do not go through it with more coolness or steadiness than the whites. I threw this in here for a reason. This is to justify why they wouldn't let black people be officers, because they're saying, hey, although they are brave and adventuresome, they don't understand where danger is coming from more so than white people do. So we can't make them leaders. But also on the plantation, they will have black people go and catch that wild boar or catch that fox that's going into the hen house, but not perceive the snake that's out there because they got a gun behind them saying, go get that fox. And I could have kept going because it gets more. It talks about women and love and everything. I can keep going. But let's get back to Trump and what he said and what the farmers said to him.
People live in the inner City are not doing that work. They're just not doing that work. And they've tried, we've tried, everybody tried. They don't do it.
You all know whenever you hear inner city, urban, DEI, whenever you hear terms like that, they're talking about black people. Black people would not go out there. Now that could be a two-pronged issue. Black people are lazy, remember that? Or when he was talking about black jobs, that's what he was talking about.
These people do it naturally. I said, what happens if they get it to a farmer the other day? What happens if they get a bad back? He said, they don't get a bad back, sir, because if they get a bad back, they die.
Immigrants are only built for labor. They're only designed for labor, like the Matrix. They're only made to do a certain job. And if they don't do that job, their bodies will shut down and they will die because they can't or won't or don't do the job. That's the mindset of whatever farmer he was talking about and Donald Trump and most of MAGA. That kind of thinking from that farmer and from Donald Trump go all the way back past Thomas Jefferson, because Thomas Jefferson was taught that by his father and his father before him. It has passed down. So when you got congressmen and politicians that are in their 70s, 80s, 90s, you got to ask yourself, who were their elementary school teachers and what year were they born? It'll shock the shit out you. What do you think?